This RedRock 4x4 Tubular Rear Bumper with wraparound ends in textured black is for those of you that have a 2018 and up JL that are looking for a bumper that's going to change up the look of your Jeep a little bit, maybe give you a little bit more of that retro styling, and you don't necessarily need or want one of those more off-road ready plate steel bumpers that has a lot more features, but is also going to be a lot more expensive. This is going to be a 2 out of 3 wrenches, not for the install of the bumper itself, but because every JL aftermarket bumper is going to include a little bit of wiring to get your new license plate light set up. That bumps it into that 2 out of 3 wrenches, but we are going to show you how to get the bumper installed in just a second. So when you are shopping for a rear bumper, it's going to be for a variety of different reasons. Some people are looking for additional recovery points. Maybe they're looking for a bumper mounted tire carrier. This bumper is going to be a little bit on the other end of the spectrum, just all about the looks. This is going to be changing the look of your Jeep dramatically, and like I said, it is going to give you a little bit more of that retro styling. It has these nice large 3-inch round tubes covered in this textured black powder coat finish, which is going to do a nice job of resisting any sort of rusting or corrosion. It is going to have your license plate bracket here. It does come with a light and has a hole drilled for it, but again, that's where the wiring comes in here in this installation. As you can see, the top tube is cut, so this bumper will accept up to a 37-inch spare tire in the factory spare tire location, and it also has a little bit of a bump in the bottom of that bottom tube, allowing you to run a factory 2-inch receiver. So really a good solid rear bumper. It's not going to take away any of the factory functionality, including this tow hook. You can still leave that installed as well, and it is going to give you that different look, all while being less expensive than those more off-road ready bumpers. As I already mentioned, this one comes in at right around that $180 mark, which I do think is going to be a fairly good deal for the quality of this bumper. So as I mentioned, pretty easy install. I'm going to show you how to do it right now. For this install, we used an 8mm, 10mm, 16mm, and 18mm socket, along with a small 3/8 extension, all driven by a combination of our 3/8 electric impact and 3/8 pneumatic impact. We also used a small straight-bladed screwdriver to help us remove the wiring harness. So this is going to be a pretty easy bolt-on installation. Of course, with the new JL, they have a license plate mount in the factory bumper and a license plate light in the factory bumper. So with any new bumper you're going to be putting on the Jeep, you are going to have to do a little bit of wiring to get a new light set up on your license plate. That's going to keep you legal. So there's always that aspect. That's going to bump all of these rear bumpers up into a 2 out of 3 wrenches for the installation. But again, it's just for the wiring of the license plate light, which is pretty easy to do. So the first step in installing a new bumper is of course removing the factory one, and in order to do that, there are a couple of plastic splash shields on the inside of the fender well here that we're going to have to remove. That will give us access to a couple of bolts that we have to remove to get that bumper out of the way. After removing the plastic cover, that gives us access to these bolts here that hold the bumper onto this bumper bracket, so we're going to remove those. Then we'll repeat the process on the other side. Now we're going to move on to removing these 2 small bolts that hold the bumper onto the rear cross member. While we're underneath the Jeep, we're also going to reach up and unplug the license plate light wiring harness. That way it's not in the way when we remove the rest of the bumper. The next couple of bolts we need to remove to get the bumper off the Jeep are these two right here that hold the bumper onto the end of the frame. Now we'll remove the same two bolts on the other side to remove the bumper from the Jeep. The last thing we need to do before pulling the bumper off the Jeep is unplug the license plate wiring harness. To do that, there's a small plastic safety clip. We'll use a small screwdriver to pop that out of the way. As you can see, we have the wiring harness unplugged. Now we'll just have to unclip the wiring harness itself from the cross member of the Jeep. Now we can just grab the bumper and give it a pull to remove it from the Jeep. We're going to be able to work ours around our spare tire. If you choose to, you can remove your spare to make this just a little bit easier. With the bumper removed from the Jeep, the last bit of disassembly we have to do is removing these outer bumper brackets. They're not going to be reused for the new bumper installation, they're just going to be in the way, so we'll remove them now. As you can see with the two bumpers side by side, they are pretty much the same dimensions, but they do have a dramatically different look to them, and that's what we were saying before. This bumper is more of an aesthetic mod than anything else. So instead of your plastic bumper that has those smooth plastic curves, this is going to be that steel tubular bumper, but again, pretty much roughly the same coverage. And that's thanks to the fact that this is the wraparound bumper. So this does have these ends here that return and go back and wrap around the corners of the tub, much like that factory bumper does. If this was just a straight bumper, I would say it gives you even more of a different look. As you can see, they're both going to have a cutout for your spare tire there. So whether you're running a factory spare or a larger spare, as long as it's high enough, you're going to have plenty of clearance there. Pretty much if it cleared your factory bumper, it will clear your new tubular bumper. This does have a little bit of a notch out of the bottom of it so that you can still run a factory hitch, which is a really nice feature. The factory bumper has a similar notch out of it. So again, there are a lot of similarities, at least dimensionally, from your factory bumper to your aftermarket tubular bumper. Of course, they are going to have the same license plate mount in roughly the same location, and your new bumper is going to come with a new license plate light. Now it's time to get our new bumper installed on the Jeep. This is going to install a lot easier than that factory bumper uninstalled. These two tabs right here are going to go on either side of the rear frame rails, and we're going to use factory hardware to attach it to factory mounting points. So you can do this yourself like I'm going to do, but having a friend might make it a little bit easier. I'm just going to scoot the bumper in place and get that hardware holding it on. As you can see, these mounting holes in your new bumper are slotted to allow some up-down adjustability. So at this point, with all the bolts started and just a little bit snugged down, you can make sure the bumper is level across the bottom, sitting exactly how you like it, and then do the final tightening of all 4 bolts. With the bumper tightened down, the last couple things you'll need to do is swap your license plate over from the factory bumper onto your new bumper, bolted right onto the bracket here. Hardware is included, and also get your license plate light wired up. Now, there are a variety of different ways to do this, so I'm not going to show you exactly how to do it. My recommendation would be clipping the factory end off of the wiring harness for the factory license plate light, soldering it on to these 2 wires on the end of your new light. That way you can plug in directly to the factory wiring harness. That's going to be, in my opinion, the cleanest way to get this done. But again, there are a variety of different ways. However you decide to do it, that's completely up to you. No matter how you get this wired up, the light itself really just presses into this hole here, like that. And that's all there is to it. So if you are looking for a bumper that's going to change up the look of your Jeep, give you a little bit more of that retro styling with a tubular bumper, I would recommend this option from RedRock 4x4, and you can find it right here at ExtremeTerrain.com.